I just had a meeting with okay, this has been a very productive week. Very productive week. I've gotten a lot done this week. I've changed a lot. I just had a meeting with my supervisor. I don't know why I was so nervous, but I was. Even though things were like going right, I was like, I don't know, it's just always nerve-wracking to show people what you're up to, but he just gave me the most obvious, like, why didn't I think of that solution for one issue that I was having on my most difficult thing that I was like, why is this not working? I was like, what's wrong with me? Okay, I was fighting for my life with the sparsely coded recurrent excitation little thingy thing. And oh my gosh, I was like, what's wrong with it? I'm gonna show you a picture. It didn't look like this before. Okay, before it was like breaking down like this, and I was like, why does it start low and then go high? Like, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with it? I was really confused. I was like, what? That doesn't like, what does that mean? And then he said, oh, and then he noticed, which I don't know why I didn't notice this. I think I thought it in passing, and then I just like in my panic, I just didn't even think about it. But he was like, maybe you're just having bad luck with your patterns. And like maybe that's just like one bad pattern. It said it was running 50 times, so I assumed it was randomly generating them 50 times. And it wasn't randomly generating a new pattern 50 times. What it was actually doing was just running the same. It might have been different patterns, but I think that the noisy pattern was always the same, something like that. So I was just like, well, duh. So the minute we just got off the call, literally like 5 minutes ago, and I just stuck it in Claude and I was like, can you just make it run 50 times? And I was just like, what is wrong with me? But anyway, so now you can see that it actually works pretty fine. And you get a pretty neat little like this like up here and then up here. And I feel pretty good about that. It's interesting how much of a like variety there is here. Um, and then the variety kind of diminishes over time. That's pretty interesting, but maybe I'll talk about that. But yeah, it's just really yeah, that made a really big difference because it was like here. I was like, why is it starting at 80 or something? It should be like 100, and then it was like going up. I was like, what? Why is it down then up? Like, I don't know, really annoying. But now you can see that it works fine. So thank God for that. So now they're pretty up and going. Like, or, I don't know how to say it. I don't know. I think I'm hungry. I need to eat so I can be coherent because I just felt very incoherent. I don't know. But and I also started getting numbers as well already. So you can see this is my sparsely coded one pattern separation. And I got all these little numbers and it's a little bit weird because even though it should be zeroed all the way down, like I am getting a little bit of like this three, what is it? It's the amount of encoded bits that turned off. And so it really should have been zero, but for some reason it's three, but it's still at the least amount than the other ones. Like as you go down, you can see that it's like a lot is lost by, oh wait, no, this is not even, I think this is gain, not lost. It actually, oh, because it's, of course, because it's getting more like denser as it goes down. So it gains a lot of them. It loses not that many, which is pretty interesting because I swear that they were losing them quite a bit. I'm a little bit confused. I want to check back with this one and just make sure it makes sense, but I am starting to get numbers, which is pretty cool. I wanted to see how many were actually novel. Like, I wanted to get information about the quality of the sort of differences because I thought those would be pretty interesting in terms of like dementia and stuff like that. So it's pretty, but you can see that the novelty score gets way higher where it's like these are so random, like they're not part of anything now. Whereas the novelty score, what's this? Like the four up. The novelty score up here is like very low. But the novelty score down here is very high, like bits that appear in neither source. But I need to double check that's not including the noisy pattern. It could just be picking stuff up from the noisy pattern. So I'm going to do a different one to maybe see that as well. In both. Yeah, see, I don't think it took I'm going to do one all the way up again that includes novelties, like it wasn't in noisy either. Because I think that that'll be a better indicator. And they are pretty blended down here, you can see, because up here, even if there's some messiness, it's still leaning more towards the like the stored pattern by quite a bit more. And then by here you see it's pretty much just mixture, mixture, mixture. I don't know. I see. I might want to get more numbers and stuff, but it's a pretty good start, I would say. And then now that this one I feel better about it, I think the next one I'm going to try to get numbers from is this one. I'm definitely not changing anything about it. And then this one as well. The combination one, I'm saving that for last, even though it's an important one because it's giving me, I don't know, it's really random, but I don't know. I'm gonna run a little graphic thingy and see if it looks the same, but it was giving me kind of different results when I was trying it, but that also might be like a bad luck with the patterns issue, like my supervisor said. But yeah, it's really starting to come along now, which is cool. I feel like I'm gonna finish the results section this month if I work hard. I think I could finish it this month. And then I could just spend the rest of my time using like finishing my paper, get it done early. Yeah, okay, that's it. Hello. I just came back from a 10-hour shift. I had a 6-hour shift last night, went home, slept, woke up, went to my 10-hour shift. So I was pretty brain dead when I got home, but also energized. I've been obsessed with SpongeBob recently. That's been like my hyperfixation show. I always get a hyperfixation show. I can't watch shows normally. Like I'm always watching, I always have that one show I'm obsessed with and it just runs in the background all the time. Before this one, it was Two Broke Girls. Now it's SpongeBob and it's never anything like that. Like it's always something that is so completely mindless, but I think my theory is that I'm so like in my head all day and I'm so in my serious energy all day every day anyways. It's like I don't want to watch a serious show unless it's like the best show ever, but anyway, so I'm really fixated on SpongeBob right now. Okay, we have a pretty exciting shift. I have my first two set of numbers. I'm going to show you how I put those together myself. We're going into my Claude. So I had to think about what I wanted from all of the different from like the different tape the different models. So this Claude wrote, but I wrote this first and then I went into Claude just like, for transparency or whatever. I went into Claude myself and I told it like everything I want. Wait, being very slow. This was like 2 or 3 days ago now. I'll show you this is the second one I asked. I said, I want to test these elements for my densely coded recur recurrent suppression model. So I wanted percentage of patterns recalled completely, which I don't fully know if I need to look like I don't fully know if I feel like I think actually I do feel like I got that from my numbers, but I'll see. I wanted more of like a literal actually I don't know. It's a bit complex, but I'll explain. Match to stored percentage, match to noisy percentage, dominant score, what the blend leans towards. Is it leaning more towards noisy or more towards recovered pattern? Energy levels at convergence. I thought that possibly could make a good because usually computational modeling papers have a little bit of information about the actual like the dynamic like the more like technical dynamics from the papers that I've read. And I thought maybe it would be good to talk a little bit about how the model actually handled the suppression and everything. I thought would make a good paper. And I do remember reading when I was asking Claude about I asked it a little bit about dementia one time and I showed it my results and I was like I don't know, I was like asking like is there anything novel? No, I didn't ask is there anything novel. I said what's the research out. Is this like anything or is it nothing? And there's already like plenty of, you know what I'm saying? I was just trying to get a little bit of sense because I don't really know that much about dementia. So it did also tell me at that point, and I'll show you that a lot of Hopfield Network paper, like there's not as much information or like it's good to talk about sparsity or something because like that's a little bit more of a gap I would or like a gap to fill in terms of the Hopfield Network dynamic. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll talk about that. And either way, it would be good to talk about how the energy levels kind of moved through the suppression. I thought would be a good thing to talk about. The number of iterations, I don't know if that'll really be useful. I was like, let me just read like anything that I can from this right now. I'll just try to grab like as much information and I don't even feel like I've gotten everything, but I got like a good amount. So then it helped me to code, like write like a code for that. And then the other thing that I told it I wanted, this was the first one that I did. I'm trying to find where I even began to ask these questions. I'm gonna show what Claude said because maybe that would make it interesting. Like, I don't know, these videos have been kind of just me trying to, at this point, capture what I think is important. In the beginning, I feel like I talked more about silly stuff or like what's on my mind or fun, but these have been very like serious little video sets. At like this run has been just pure like me working like just things I think are important to capture about my own process or you know what I mean? Because it's like this is my first big paper and I think it would be really interesting to show what Claude said. But anyways, so this is what I first asked. So I want to make a feature that tests the difference between the original and the encoded pattern. Then I want to see the difference between the encoded pattern and what was recalled. I said, don't write the code yet. But I want to also see if that difference was because of more neurons lit up or less neurons lit up. The other thing I want to know, because some of my recall at low acetylcholine resulted in patterns unique from both models, is whether there are actual blends or just unique patterns. How would I calculate these elements? These were the things that I wanted to see reflected. I don't fully feel like my numbers have like, I guess, transmuted that 100%, but that might be an issue of actually showing some of my like my output because the thing is that the numbers get like averages across 50 trials. And I think what's interesting is that sometimes things go really wrong and sometimes they don't. And I still think that's important information and that like, you know, the kind of diversity. And I think that the numbers kind of, I think they kind of muddled that a little bit like just a touch in terms of you didn't really get to see the kind of variety that well. So I don't know if that's me not under like needing a better metric or if that's just something that I think will maybe reflect better when I actually show the numbers, you know? So like not the numbers, like show some output from my patterns. Like I was showing my supervisor an output that I got at 0.3 and you could see that it was making these kind of unique patterns that were not in any of the different patterns. So I thought that was pretty interesting and I wanted that reflected. So yeah. And then yeah, so it basically made me a little list. Like it explained uh you know, I didn't actually go through this and it might not hurt to kind of look through this as well. I still think I'm gonna get more from what I have. You know, like I'm gonna look back through and read this because I actually think this is probably good stuff too that I just didn't like I kind of glazed over. Because this is why. I think I missed like I think it wasn't it wasn't understanding how my model worked. That's why I glazed over that, though I might come back to this specifically. Like right off the bat, it wasn't understanding. So I explained it again, and then it gave me that like a list of like the things that I needed. So that was good, and it just went through pretty much everything that like I asked for in kind of a list. So that was good. Um, yeah, and then I guess while I'm here, let me see if I can find what Claude told me about my low acetylcholine. I don't even remember like when I asked for this at all, which is really irritating. Now I'm gonna be struggling to find it. Okay, okay, this is actually it right here. So I'll show you what I asked about this. This one, okay, because I saw this and I was like, I knew because I had done reading I had read so many papers on acetylcholine that I knew I was like, this is dementia related when I saw it. because I was like, I know what low acetylcholine is supposed to do because I read so many papers on like scopolamine and stuff. But I was like, I don't know, like, especially because like I don't know. I was like, is this right? Did I understand it right? And like, is it actually something, you know? So I basically I was having a little bit of trouble understanding, so I asked it to explain it like ChatGPT because ChatGPT will dumb it down. Claude doesn't really dumb down the same way. But by then I had stopped using ChatGPT, so I was like, I'm not gonna go back to ChatGPT. I just want like easy because I was a little bit out of my depth. But anyway, so it did explain what I already kind of like. This is, I asked it to explain what Claude had told me. So Claude told me, I'm gonna try to find the original, but I gave it to Claude. And I was like, why did this happen? I think that was what I asked, and it went through like why that happened. And I was asking it. I was like, it's not a mixture like it looks like a spurious attractor, but it doesn't have like patterns from the first two. It's like completely unique patterns. So it started to explain a little bit, and I was like a little bit overwhelmed. So uh, it explained it a little bit to me, which I think will be very useful. I'm gonna come back to this when I get to that point, obviously with my own research and everything. But yeah, I've been at this point in the game, like I feel I don't use AI really that much at all, and I felt really guilty using it throughout, even though I didn't use it to cheat or anything. Like obviously, I'd really just use it to like help, like you know what I mean, like learn stuff or like okay, can you explain that a little bit better or stuff that's like more necessary. Even so, sometimes I feel bad, but I've been telling myself at this point that like it's more important for me to learn to do research, and this has been the most insane like research learning experience, and I've picked up so much. Like I've genuinely picked up so much over the last year about research. I was like, if you need a little bit of help, like the level of vocabulary that I've already gotten to with computational neuroscience, not from AI specifically, but just from being exposed to the vocabulary has been so useful. And I was like, you know what? It's like it's good that you learn and it's good that you ask questions about what you're doing. Like this is like practice, this is learning. So I was like, it's good to learn. It's good to learn why I'm getting issues. So I've been trying to give myself some breathing room to ask my questions because I'm like, this is like the amount of like this is such good information to learn from about so many different things. So yeah, but I've learned so much about computational modeling like, recently. So and hot field networks and stuff. So yeah, I basically went into a little bit of like why this was happening within the model. And I said, what do people already know about this? This is what I wanted to know because I was like, um, I wanted to see like, is it really like, I was like, I didn't know if it was really that useful or exciting at all. I was just like, okay. So I asked, what do people already know about this? And it says, your model sits right at the intersection of several well-established research threads, and it told me a lot of things that I already did know. So, for example, acetylcholine controls this, already well known, the encoding retrieval balance. Spurious attractors and hot field networks are very well known. Low acetylcholine pore separation during pattern separation during coding. Obviously, this is all stuff that fed into my project, so I was like, okay. Sparse coding reduces spurious attractors, but low sparsity worsens them. Um, yeah, okay. But then what is less established, it says the specific mechanism you're modeling, low acetylcholine to bloated encoded patterns to overlapping Hebbian weights to spurious attractors that look like confabulation is a more precise mechanism chain than most of the existing literature spells out. So most of the acetylcholine memory literature describes the functional outcome. So poor encoding interference and retrieval errors without explicitly tracing it through the weight matrix geometry the way you're doing. So even recent work notes that the importance of spurious correlation during retrieval has largely gone unnoticed in the previous literature on Hopfield. I might actually copy paste this so I don't forget to go back to it. And it talks, what I thought was really interesting is that I've been really using my notes app, my notes like thing recently. It basically says that like the fact that these confabulations are actually made out of, it said this later, but most computational models talk about capacity and error rates, not about what the spurious states actually look like or why they appear novel rather than being obvious blends. So I was like, okay, I need to learn that. And yeah, so I just asked it to like explain a little bit more and stuff. And then what can researchers do with this information? Again, I didn't really know, but it said, first of all, clinical and Alzheimer's research. So it would basically, so your model offers something these drugs don't address, a mechanistic explanation for why memory recall goes wrong at the computational level, not just the chemical level. So it shows that low acetylcholine isn't just low signal, but that it actually corrupts the weight matrix. And then also the timing of acetylcholine intervention matters. So it's actually at retrieval, might help less than boosting at the moment of encoding because the damage to the weight is already done. So again, that was really interesting as well. This was I thought was pretty interesting is that I went into this like the whole like confabulation versus dissociation debate. It's like it's funny because like I've been saying that actually in getting more information about what dissociation actually works like, that we would know more or like learn more about confabulation and what it actually is. And so it was super funny that I actually came out with some confabulation related research too in a way. So confabulation is poorly understood. So it's not, yeah, the brain fills in gaps. Your models give us a precise, falsifiable account. So confabulation memories are spurious attractors shaped by cross-pattern weight interference from poorly separated encoded patterns. Probably not always that, but maybe more times than you think. Um, so it's not just random noise, but like real memories. And yeah, again, it's probably not always, but like maybe sometimes. And then this is what I was talking about is that there was actually some things that were more within machine learning that I could talk about. And I was like, okay, I probably should because I know that I saw a lot of papers actually going into like what their model like said about actual like neural networks. I thought that would be another good thing to talk about as well. Yeah, and then early diagnosis. This is perhaps the most unexplored angle. If the model is right, then the character of someone's memory errors could change in a predictable way as cholinergic function degrades. Early Alzheimer's patients shouldn't just remember less, they should remember differently, producing confabulations with a specific statistical signature, fragments drawn from multiple real memories. Computational models are increasingly being used to identify novel biomarkers and design diagnostics for Alzheimer's dementia, with researchers emphasizing that computational simulations can predict drug efficacy and facilitate personalized medicine approaches. A model that predicts the shape of memory errors, not just their frequency, could give clinicians a finer grained diagnostic signal, potentially detectable earlier than gross memory loss. It's really cool and exciting. So hopefully I'll go into that. And yeah, then I asked like just some more questions. I was like, what is a weight matrix in a brain? Because I was like, what's that gonna look like? Like I was like, what does that mean? Anyways, nobody needs to know all that, but I did ask that, and yeah, I think then at that point I went into some other things about my other models. So, but that wasn't even the point. I just thought that would be pretty interesting to show like the conversation that I had with Claude because obviously I'm gonna do my own reading and back it and stuff. But the reason that I already knew about that dementia thing is that I had already done lots of reading on like scopolamine and stuff all the way back from the earliest parts of my project. Like that was from some of the first acetylcholine papers that I even read were them talking about, honestly, I probably even read it in Michael E. Haselmo's papers himself. The acetylcholine king, I'm sure he mentioned it in his own papers and talked about scopolamine as well. because I remember reading. It's like I have like a very vivid image of in my head of like one day that I was reading acetylcholine papers and reading all this, reading. I was like, I remember being like, that's so weird that like low acetylcholine causes amnesia and hallucinations. But I was like, I'm saying that high acetylcholine causes amnesia. So it's like two completely different types of amnesia, which is so funny. But I remember reading all this. So yeah, that's why I knew when I looked at it, I was like, I know this is like, I know that I did my model right because I'm seeing this and I know that low acetylcholine does this. So anyways, with all that said, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna show you my first numbers that I got, and I'm gonna show you like I already made my first little like graphs as well. And I think I already showed that like in another clip, but yeah, anyways, yeah, so I started like I did all this by hand. Like I actually at each different acetylcholine point, I guess I'll show it. I had it written the number, and then I went each of these took me like probably 3 hours each. They took me a long time, but I wanted to do that because I wanted to see the numbers coming out one by one, and I wanted to like I wanted to make sure everything was working right. I wanted to see how things were kind of going as it went up and like is everything working out right and everything. So that's why I did it all by hand in this beautiful spreadsheet that's very rainbow colored. And yeah, so these are the ones that I did. So I already have here pattern separation. That model I felt pretty good about. There's a little bit more stuff that like I thought I'm not thinking of it right now off the top of my head, but I was like, maybe I could go back for this and that. My brain is kind of fried right now, I'm not gonna lie. Like by the end of my shift, oh my gosh, I was making mistakes. I was like, I told this girl, I was like, welcome to blah 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 blah. So we have two rules, like no smoking or drinking in the hostel and no eating or drinking in your room. And she was like, you already said that. I was like, what? She was like, yeah, you already said it. I was like, wait, what? When did I even say that? Like, what? Why did I even say it? Because like I usually say it when I'm leading people upstairs, but like I was still sitting and I had like written her little card for her hostel room. It was like I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then the craziest thing is that I almost said it a third time and I caught myself. So I'm really tired right now. But I just felt hype about this and I started to get a little bit more like graphs and stuff. But anyways, yeah, but it's pretty interesting. I need to actually like have a hard think about how the numbers work, but this is the point where you should see the most like issues is here 0. There is a lot of novelty. I think I need to understand the novel. Oh no, this is blend score. The novelty is never actually that high, which I want to see. These are the things that I'm like, well, I guess it makes sense that it's low, like it's not too high, but it's like if you actually look at the output, I think it's a lot more obvious what I'm showing, where it's like, yeah, that doesn't seem that high, but like it's very glaring. Like if you were to actually look at it, like it's actually a very glaring issue. It's not like a small issue, So that's why I was like, the numbers are great, but also I think it's more for comparison because if you actually look at like the output, it's very glaring. Um, but you do see that the novelty here is like it's pretty low, but you don't even see like the level. I think I'm a little confused and I want to run this one again because like maybe at a different pattern amount or something. Because I'm a little bit confused as to why at the highest amount, and this did go 50 times, random patterns 50 times, everything, but I might do it a second time or something. I was still just getting like, this really should have been mostly zeros except for a few different metrics. And there was zero contamination, so that's good. But through here, I'll show you which one it is just for reference, but this is one that I made where it's basically like there has like a dummy pattern and it's kind of copying like how ACH inhibits granule cells and then you get like this output and stuff. So yeah, so that's the one I'm looking at here, which this one is pretty good. I just felt good about it from the get-go. It worked well. I didn't have any issues with it. So Yeah, but I think it's pretty interesting that like the numbers are still pretty up, like gained. Like why did it gain 3? Is that is that like a not that bad amount to gain? It's like it's almost 4 even, and it really shouldn't have gained anything at that point. So these are just little things, and like you kind of do have to make a little bit of room, I think, for that. But I just was like, I was a little bit surprised at the amount. So, but it might just be, can't help it. Also, what's pretty interesting is that, and this one is pretty weird, but it seems to have lost more. Am I wrong? It seems to have actually lost more at the high acetylcholine than low. There's just little things that I'm like, wait a minute. So I think this is one that I'm gonna double check, but it's pretty interesting still. And then like I might make some graphs right now. I was gonna do that now to show like some of like okay, first glance at what's gonna like what's to come. I'm so tired right now actually. But this is like fun for me. I'm not even joking. Right now because I have numbers and I have things to look at, like it's actually fun because I'm actually learning stuff about what my like what happened here and like the story is really interesting. So I was also pretty done with my dense coded one. Like there's nothing really more to do unless I run another one with like different patterns and stuff. I probably will do that. Like, okay, less, I don't know, more patterns or whatever. But this one, I mean, worked pretty much as expected. And you can see that at around from 0.3 to 0.4, there's like a real sharp turn down and then 0 the rest of the way through. And it's pretty interesting that it all the way through stopped converging at around this point, which is a little, I thought that was a bit weird too, but I think it did make sense because like there shouldn't really be too much variability there anyways. But I'm gonna, already, so I already started kind of like, I asked I'm not going to make my final images on Claude. What I want to do is the reason I got all these numbers like this is that I want to use R Studio, if only for the simple fact that I learned R Studio this year, my master's program. And while I completely forget that this is actually a master's dissertation, because to me this is like my own madness, I thought it would still be good to show that like I'm utilizing the skills that I learned in my program. Um, I just thought it wouldn't be a bad thing anyways, but maybe I don't know, we'll see. So that's why I got all the numbers here. I probably won't end up using, like, I definitely won't use Claude for this. I just wanted to see it myself. So I gave it my spreadsheet. This is retrieval success. Look how sharp it goes down at 0.4. And then that's what I'm saying. It like it's a little bit of a random number to drop off on, but it does kind of stick around there for the rest. So it very quickly starts to just go down, which is pretty expected. I'm gonna like this is a play session. It's like show and tell. I'm gonna do another one. Let's see, what do we want to know next? I'm really interested in the dense one right now. I'm curious about the energy one just because I think I'm gonna talk about that. Um I just think it'll be interesting, like, again, going more into like the mechanisms of the Hopfield network itself. Also, I keep forgetting that I'm roasting garlic, so I cannot forget. I swear my brain. I looked in my pocket and I was like, "Oh my God, I took 5 pounds from work and I forgot that I literally put this 5 pounds. Like this is my 5 pounds. This is not from work." And I actually almost ran off without my 5 pounds. Like I went to Sainsbury's to get some stuff for dinner. And then it was just like sitting there. I was like, "Oh my God, my 5 pounds." So my brain is not all the way there, but this is also pretty interesting. I think I might make a lot of graphs and then next time I meet my supervisor, I might show him like everything I have and then see like what does he think? What are his suggestions on like the most pertinent stuff to put into my thing? This is pretty interesting, I think. I don't know, maybe it's not, but I think it shows how the actual acetylcholine model is working, which I do think is pretty interesting myself, but I think it's good information, right? You see how it's like what's it called? The attractor basin? You see I'm learning is getting shallower and shallower. I don't know if that's actually correct, but I think that isn't that right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It's getting like shallower and shallower, so it's not all the way up. And then here it's like done. We're done. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think I'll probably include that or some variation. And then it the trial always converged within the time limit. There was not one time it didn't, which is from what I've read expected. It didn't have any issue at all, so there's nothing to say there. And also this one is not exciting. Let's see this one. Overlap with the stored pattern. This is pretty much the same thing as I already have. Like I already got an output very similar to this. This is just like more, I guess, official because I got the actual numbers, but I already made a similar output. I think I already showed it in my model even. The one that I showed, which is probably exactly how I'm going to do it, is like it was overlap with stored pattern and then like superimposed on top of the overlap with noisy input. And you see how they kind of go like opposite. So I think I'm going to probably include that, like just use these same numbers to do the same thing. It's the same thing. You see how it over time, like it isn't as related to the stored pattern. Now, this is what I'm saying about certain things being missing. Not actually missing, but you don't see the full picture, is that in the densely coded pattern, like why is it this is my little like academic conference moment right now. But one thing that you don't really see in these numbers reflected is that even though
sentado num dia gostoso, um dia assim quente, mas daqueles que tem vento, e esperando começar uma festa aqui do Bumba Meu Boi na praça.
Yeah, so that one's pretty interesting as well. I mean, this one, oh, the thing I was gonna say, two different people called me. My mom called me, and then people from my job called me. So, anyways, the thing I was gonna say is that this is another one where you don't really get the full picture because what's pretty interesting about this one is that actually what happens is that one like one of the three patterns or two of the three patterns don't recall like don't that's why I was trying to get like a percentage of how many of them recalled, but that didn't really get translated, so I've been thinking about trying to I don't know, but the thing is that it's so the problem with the randomness element and with it basically getting like an average over time is that you that's why these numbers are lower overall, but you don't see it reflected in any one. Like, it's just kind of like splattered across the three. So that's the problem is that that's why you don't really see that impact where it's like, okay, two out of three of them didn't actually recall, but one recalled perfectly. So I really want to talk about that. So I've been trying to figure out those numbers as well. And like, I guess what's the best way to convey that? Because the numbers just don't do it justice when it comes to dense. Yeah. Anytime you're averaging it over 50, it just doesn't really. You don't really. You don't really get to see the kind of detail that's going on like a micro scale. I think so. Anyways, but it's still pretty interesting. And then, yeah, I was gonna see if there's anything here I wanted to kind of look at. I'm curious about the novelty score. Let's start looking at pattern separation. This is kind of a weird one. This is the problem that I'm having with the novel. Oh wait, was it the novelty score? There's one. Okay, this is the novelty score. It is significantly higher up here. The problem is that again, this is good for comparing, but it is a little misleading because like it's not that much novelty. Like, I mean, this is actually still quite a bit, like quite a good amount of novelty, I think. What I think is pretty interesting about these is that you see so much like shakiness in terms of like the actual recall, which is pretty interesting. Instead of just, a lot of them it's just like a swoop, but this one it's like there's a lot going on here actually in terms of difference, and it's pretty interesting. But you see the difference in numbers isn't that high, but it does look pretty high when you look at it like this. It almost it didn't quite double, but it actually no, it didn't almost double, but it was like near that.
E você é O positivo, igual eu. A Júlia é A positiva. Outro dia eu vi que. Então, hoje tem a Shakira, For Free, Rio de Janeiro is still out of people.
Yeah.
They expect to make 80 million reais. Então, e isso.
Yeah, that's good.
Drink some tea and go sleep well.
I will.
Remember with Lime and Sal and nighttime.
Yeah.
Always. Okay.
All right.
Ciao,
All right.
baby.
Thank you. Love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye.
Yeah, so this is the issue with my current numbers, and I'm gonna go back through each and every single like acetylcholine level now, probably with this thought process in mind. I don't know if I should am I allowed to keep these same numbers and then just add some more metrics? I'll have to figure that out, but the thing is that it only compared all these different things with like I didn't realize this. I don't know why this slip this completely like I just didn't realize, but basically it didn't actually like kind of factor in the noisy pattern. So for example, see this is my issue. It's like the novelty score. So this is basically I think bits that are neither in neither source truly spurious, but the problem with that is that I don't think that it's actually taking out like it's not taking out the noisy pattern one. So like well it could just be that it's learning the noisy pattern. So that's one issue that I think I'm having that I'm going to have to go back through and I'm still going to keep these numbers because they might make a good comparison or something with that, but I think I need to get some more that are actually kind of factoring in the noisy pattern to the process because when you get those spurious mixtures, sometimes what it does is that it actually picks up a little bit of the noisy pattern and then a little bit of the other things where it's not just the dummy pattern. So that's why I think it's important. So I'm going to go back through and like I think just factor that in better so that you can get more. For example, the novelty. You know what I think might happen actually with the novelty one is that dude, everybody's calling me tonight. I got my sister, like my everybody is calling me tonight. Julia, I'm sorry. It's for the project. We're ignoring it for now. We're gonna go back to Julia in a second. What's she texting? You just said you awake. Let's say, yeah, give me 10 minutes. I'm gonna like we'll sum it up in 10 minutes. Okay? We're gonna talk to my sister in a second. Everybody that's probably like the third or fourth phone call I've gotten since starting this video, but anyways, basically, so this is like I was saying that what I think this is like my mini hypothesis is that I think that actually once I factor in the noisy pattern, maybe there's gonna be less novelty, like, but I think maybe the difference will be sharper. I don't know though. I think it will be sure. I think it'll be probably more like this. It's like my guess, you know? Because right now it's just not factoring that in. So I'm worried that like, for example, I think I had that issue with this one a little bit where it's like spurious attractor rate. It was like a spurious attractor to it is something that like actually no, I don't know if it was for this one. I had one where it was like it was only factoring in, it was not this one. It was only factoring in if it didn't include like the either of the patterns, but it's like it didn't really include the noisy pattern. It's probably one of these and I'm just going insane, but anyways, so that's why I was like, yeah, there's this one, the shared one. It was in both, can't no, it wasn't this one. I think it was novel, truly spurious, where I was like, truly spurious. I don't know that it is. So I'm still gonna keep this anyways. But I think that I'm gonna also get like another like bit of lines here where I'm doing the same thing but factoring in the noisy pattern. So I think that'll just give me a cleaner understanding because it's like, yeah, well, that's why it got those numbers versus like there's no possible reason it should have that number, which I did see in my lower acetylcholine. I'm also a little bit worried just because when I was actually doing it, I read it again. I always freak out over nothing. I think it's fine, but I didn't get that same like what is this one? I had to use one of my old screenshots when I was going to talk to my supervisor, but it was like 2 minutes before my meeting. Um, like this is acetylcholine, like where is it? 0.1. I think it was at 0.3 that I really saw the worst. Oh, Yeah. Anyways, this is like the funnest thing in existence to me right now. It's so fun. Um, See, there were some places where I was like, wait, actually, this is recovering like a bit too neatly right now. Where I'm like, did I hallucinate at all? But I think I didn't. I know I didn't because I had a screenshot of exactly what I was talking about, but I was like, what happened? Where is it? Where did it go? Like now it's like perfect for some reason out of the blue. Just to make me feel crazy, you know. See, I don't know why it's coming out randomly so perfect here. It's probably like one of those same like the same thing my supervisor said before was like you might have just gotten a bad pattern because I really was getting like let me see if I find it again. I got it multiple times over and then I thought I was going crazy, so I did it again and then I saw it. So I think it is like randomness a little bit where it's like sometimes you see that's what I mean. Sometimes I see it, sometimes I don't. But I also sometimes see that the memory is lost and then sometimes I see that like it gets these random little memory pieces that are like what? But I'm just confused because out of the blue it's being like really perfect where it was getting all these issues before. So I'm like, what happened? Like, okay, now you want to be perfect. Now that I'm getting to the end, you want to be perfect again. Okay. That's fine. Thanks for making me look crazy for no reason. I don't know. Something is off because I was getting this over and over again, and I triple checked it because I got home and I was like, no, it's not there. I'm crazy. But like, it was multiple times that I saw the same thing. So I'm not going crazy. It was in my Substack essay. That's my proof. I know what I'm talking about. Well, I'm gonna have to play around with it. It's annoying, but I know I saw the issue. I mean, it's already not good. I mean, just right off the bat, it's already not good that it's like everything is so blended, but I I saw like unique things happening that had nothing to do with that. That's what I'm saying. It's like something is off right now. Something is very off. Anyways, I'll figure that out like tomorrow. Maybe I don't know. I have to like do some kind of randomness thing. I don't know. But it probably won't be tomorrow. I have work again tomorrow. They're trying like this is the thing is that you can hear from me, but my bosses are one of my bosses is very strict and you know I guess she likes things well run, but the problem is that like when I'm working back to back to back, like I'm slowly going insane. My sanity is like I'm losing my grip on sanity over time. So I was like, okay, nighttime work, then morning work, 10 hour. I did a 10-hour shift today. 10-hour shift. Okay, by the end of the day, like I'm going insane. I did 6 hours last night, 10 hours today. Now you're gonna put me in tomorrow for another 7 hours. And like I'll take the money. It's a rare occurrence. I usually only work like Sundays. So it's very rare that I would have this random shit, like this random amount of shifts. It's because somebody took off for their birthday week. But it's like, yeah, well now I'm gonna get chastised because I'm slipping up and making mistakes, but it's like I'm going insane. Like this is insanity. So it's like I'm going in for another day of torture of making mistakes once again. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'll do fine, but I'm worried right now. I had like a really off day today, so we'll see. Anyways, that's pretty much it. I think I'm gonna keep this and like done. Chapter finished. I'm really tired right now. But it's coming along, isn't it? It's not perfect yet. And I'm confused as to why sometimes my model does that and sometimes it doesn't. But I'm not going insane. I know I saw that multiple times because I have screenshots, so it can't gaslight me, you know? Yeah. Anyways, good night.